the adapter?
I can't break it now.
Oh.
I'm Bluetoothing into my thing, but thanks.
No worries. I usually do a USB-C hardwire.
Does that work on USB-C?
Mm-hmm. So do the new cell phones.
Yeah. I do have that cable. I just in the middle of it now.
Yeah, it's fine. The flip phones are a little, they're older, but they don't take as much bandwidth. No.
Watch your back, mister. Sorry. Huh?
It's a losing fight. Robert, over here. Mark, how do you Bluetooth into the mixer? Adapter 3? Yeah, yeah. They're very good. It's these are definitely lose a lot as well. crawl under this. Okay, that's where the blue cable goes.
Sorry, repeat that? Oh, that wasn't me.
Is that photonic? Photonics? Yeah.
Okay, off then.
Mario says it's very good there somewhere. I mean, I'll Gumby, but not that far.
Rachel dropped. Yeah, the other Wi-Fi is totally dead. Is it working?
sea life.
Ladies and gentlemen, the President of the United States of America and the President of the Russian Federation.
Уважаемый господин президент,
Mr. President,
дамы и господа,
ladies and gentlemen,
наши переговоры
our negotiations have been held in a constructive atmosphere of mutual
были
respect.
весьма
We
обстоятельными
had
и
very
полезными.
thorough negotiations
Хотел бы
that were
еще
quite
раз
useful.
поблагодарить
I would like to thank
моего
once
американского
again my
коллегу
American
за
counterpart
предложение
for the
приехать на
proposal
Аляску.
to travel out here to
Вполне
Alaska.
логично
It
встретиться
only
именно
makes sense
здесь,
that we've met
ведь
here,
наши страны,
because our
хоть нас
countries,
разделяют океаны,
though
на самом
separated by the
деле
oceans,
близкие
are
соседи.
close neighbors.
И я, когда мы встретились,
So when we've met,
вышли из самолетов, я так
when I
сказал:
came out of the plane, and I've said,
добрый день, дорогой
good
сосед,
afternoon, dear
очень
neighbor.
приятно видеть вас
Very good to see you,
в добром здравии
in good
и
health,
живым.
and to see you
И
alive.
по-соседски это очень
I think that is very
звучит,
neighborly,
по-моему, по-доброму.
and I think that's some
Нас разделяет только
kind words
Берингов
that we can
пролив,
say
да
to
и
each
то,
other.
там два
We're
острова
separated by the Strait of
между
Bering, though there are two islands
российским
only
и
between the Russian
американским
island
островом
and
всего
the
4
U.S. island. They're
километра.
only 4
Мы близкие
kilometers
соседи,
apart.
это факт.
We're close neighbors,
Важно
and it's a
также, что
fact.
с Аляской связана
It's also
значительная
important
часть
that
общей
Alaska
истории
has to
России
do with our
и
common
США.
heritage,
Многие
common history between
позитивные
Russia and the
события.
U.S., and
Так,
many
здесь и
positive
по сей
events
день
have to do with that
сохраняется
territory.
огромное культурное
Still, there
наследие
is
после
tremendous
русской Америки.
cultural heritage back
Православные
from the Russian
храмы,
America. For example,
множество,
Orthodox
более
churches
700
and a
географических
lot of
названий,
more than
имеющих русское
700
происхождение.
geographical names of Russian
В ходе
origin.
Второй мировой войны
During the
именно на
Second World
Аляске
War, it was here
начиналась
in
легендарная
Alaska that was the
авиамагистраль
origin
для
of the
поставок
legendary
боевых
air bridge
самолетов
for
и
the
другой
supply of
техники
military
по
aircraft and
договору
other equipment
Ленд-Лиза.
under the Land-Lease
Это был
program.
опасный,
It was a
сложный
dangerous
маршрут
and treacherous
над
route
громадными ледяными
over the
пространствами.
vast
Но летчики и
emptiness of
специалисты двух
ice.
стран делали все,
However, the
чтобы
pilots of
приблизить
both
победу,
countries did
рисковали,
everything to bring closer
отдавали
the victory.
свои жизни
They
для
risked
общей
their
победы.
lives and
Вот
they
я
gave it all
сейчас
for the
только
common
что был
victory.
в городе Магадане,
I
в
was
России,
just
там
in the city
памятник
of Magadan in Russia, and there was a
российским и
memorial there
американским
dedicated to the
летчикам.
Russian
И
and the
флаг
U.S.
на
pilots.
памятнике российский
And
и
there are two
американский.
flags, the
Я знаю,
U.S.
что
flag
и
and the Russian
здесь,
flag.
и здесь
And I
тоже
know
есть
that here
такой
as
же
well,
памятник. На
there is
военном
such a
кладбище
memorial.
всего в нескольких километрах отсюда
There is a military
захоронены
burial
советские
place
пилоты,
several kilometers away
погибшие
from
при
here.
выполнении той
Soviet
героической
pilots that
миссии.
buried there who
Признательны
died during that
американским властям
dangerous
и
mission. We're
гражданам за
thankful to the
бережное
citizens and
отношение
the
к их
government of the
памяти.
U.S. for
Это выглядит
carefully taking
достойно
care
и
of their memory.
благородно.
I think
Мы
that's very
всегда будем
worthy and
помнить
noble.
другие
We'll
исторические
always
примеры,
remember
когда
other
наши
historical
страны
examples
вместе
when our
громили
countries
общих врагов в
defeated
духе
common
боевого
enemies together
товарищества и
in the spirit of
союзничества,
battle
оказывали друг
camaraderie
другу
and
помощь и
allyship
поддержку.
that supported each
Это
other
наследие,
and
уверен, будет
facilitated
нам
each other.
помогать
I'm sure that this
восстанавливать и
heritage will
выстраивать
help us rebuild
взаимовыгодные,
and foster
равноправные
mutually
связи
beneficial
уже
and equal
на новом
ties
этапе, даже
at
в
this
самых
new stage,
непростых
even
условиях.
during the hardest
Как известно,
conditions.
российско-американские
It is
встречи в
known
верхах
that there have
не
been
проводились более
no
4
summits
лет.
between Russia and the
Это
US
большой
for 4
срок.
years, and
Минувший
that's
период был
a long
очень
time.
непростым для двухсторонних
This time
отношений.
was very
И, скажем
hard for
прямо,
bilateral
они
relations, and
скатились
let's be
до
frank,
самой
they've
низкой
fallen
точки
to
со
the
времен Холодной
lowest
войны.
point
И это
since this-
не идет на
the
пользу
Cold War.
ни нашим
I think
странам,
that's
да, и
not
миру
benefiting
в
our
целом.
countries and the world as a
Очевидно,
whole.
что рано или поздно
apparent
нужно
that
было
sooner or
выправлять
later
ситуацию,
we had
переходить
to
от
amend the
конфронтации к
situation to move
диалогу.
on
И
from
в
the
этом плане
confrontation
личная
to
встреча
dialogue.
глав
And in
двух
this case,
государств
a personal
реально
meeting
назрела,
between the heads
конечно,
of state
с
has
условием
been long
серьезной и
overdue.
кропотливой
Naturally,
подготовки. И такая
under the
работа
condition of
в целом
serious and
была
painstaking work,
проделана.
this
У
work
нас
has
с
been done in
президентом
general.
Трампом установились
Me and
очень
President
хорошие
Trump have
прямые
very good
контакты.
direct
Мы
contact.
неоднократно
We've
и
spoken
откровенно
multiple times. We spoke
разговаривали по
frankly
телефону.
on the phone.
К нам, как известно, в Россию несколько раз приезжал
special
спецпредставитель
envoy
президента США,
of
господин
the
Витков.
president, Mr. Witkoff,
Регулярно
traveled out to Russia
контактировали
several
наши
times.
помощники и главы
Our
внешнеполитических
advisors and
ведомств.
heads of foreign
Как
ministries
вы хорошо
kept in
знаете,
touch all the
понимаете,
time.
одним из
And you
центральных
know fully
вопросов
well that one of
стала
the
ситуация
central
вокруг
issues
Украины. Мы
was the
видим
situation
стремление
around
администрации
Ukraine. We
США
see
и
the strive
лично
of the
президента Трампа
administration and
содействовать
President Trump
разрешению
personally to
украинского
help
конфликта.
facilitate
Его
the
желание
resolution of
вникнуть
the
в
Ukrainian
суть
conflict
и
and his
понять
strive
его
to
историю.
get to the
Я не раз
crux of
говорил,
the
что
matter to
для
understand
России
its
события
history
на Украине
is
связаны с
precious.
фундаментальными
As I've
угрозами
said,
нашей
the
национальной
situation
безопасности.
in Ukraine
Более
has to do
того,
with
мы всегда
fundamental threats to
считали
our
и считаем
security. Moreover,
украинский
we've
народ,
always
я говорил об
considered
этом неоднократно,
the
братским,
Ukrainian
как
nation,
это ни
and I've said
странно
it multiple
прозвучит
times, a
в
brotherly
сегодняшних
nation. How
условиях. У
strange
нас
it
одни
may
корни,
sound
и
in these
все
conditions.
все
We have
происходящее
the same
для
roots,
нас
and everything
это
that's
трагедия и
happening is a
тяжелая боль.
tragedy for us, and
Поэтому
terrible wound.
наша страна искренне
Therefore, the
заинтересована в
country
том,
is
чтобы
sincerely
положить
interested
этому
in
конец.
putting an end
Но
to
при
it.
этом мы убеждены,
At the same time,
чтобы
we're convinced
чтобы украинское
that in
урегулирование
order
носило
to
устойчивый и
make
долгосрочный
the
характер,
settlement
должны быть устранены все
lasting and
первопричины
long-term, we need
кризиса,
to
о
eliminate
которых
all the
говорили
primary roots,
неоднократно.
the
Обеспечен
primary
учет всех
causes of that
законных
conflict, and we've
озабоченностей
said it multiple
России,
times, to
восстановлен
consider all
справедливый
legitimate
баланс в
concerns
сфере
of Russia and
безопасности в
to
Европе и в
reinstate
мире
a
в
just
целом.
balance
Я
of
согласен с
security in
президентом
Europe and in
Трампом,
the
он
world
сегодня
on the whole.
говорил об
And I
этом,
agree with President
что,
Trump, as he has
безусловно,
said today,
должна быть
that
обеспечена
naturally
и
the
безопасность
security
Украины.
of Ukraine should be
Конечно,
ensured as well.
мы готовы над
Naturally,
этим
we are
работать.
prepared to work
Хочется
on that.
надеяться, что достигнутое нами
I would
понимание
like to hope that the
позволит
agreement that we've
приблизиться к той
reached
цели
together
и
will help
откроет
us
дорогу к
bring
миру
closer
на
that goal and
Украине.
will pave
Мы
the
рассчитываем,
path
что в
towards peace
Киеве
in
и
Ukraine.
европейских
We
столицах
expect that Kiev and
воспримут
European
все это в
capitals will
конструктивном
perceive
ключе
that
и не станут
constructively,
чинить
and
никаких
that they won't throw a
препятствий.
wrench
Не
in the
будут
works.
предпринимать
They
попыток
will
за
not
счет
make any
провокаций или
attempts
закулисных интриг
to use some
сорвать
backroom dealings to
намечающийся
conduct
прогресс.
provocations to torpedo the nascent progress.
Кстати, с приходом новой администрации
Incidentally,
США
when the new
двусторонний
administration
товарооборот
came to
начал у нас
power,
повышаться.
bilateral
Все
trade
это
started to grow.
носит пока такой символический характер, но
It's
все-таки
still very
плюс
symbolic.
20%.
Still we
Я
have
говорю о том, что у нас много
a growth of
интересных
20%. As I've
направлений
said, we have a lot
для
of
совместной
dimensions for
работы.
joint
Очевидно,
work.
что российско-американское
It is
деловое
clear that
и
US
инвестиционное
and
партнерство
Russian
имеет огромный
investment and
потенциал.
business
России и США
cooperation has
есть что
tremendous
предложить
potential.
друг другу в
Russia and the
торговле,
US can
энергетике,
offer each
цифровой
other so
сфере,
much in
высоких
trade,
технологиях и
digital,
освоении
high-tech,
космоса.
and in
Актуальным
space
видится их
exploration.
взаимодействие в Арктике,
We see
возобновление
that Arctic
межрегиональных
cooperation
контактов,
is
в том
also
числе
very
между
possible,
нашим
and
Дальним
our
Востоком и
international
американским
context,
западным
for example,
побережьем.
between the Far East
В
of
общем,
Russia and the west
нашим
coast of the
странам
US.
важно и
Overall,
нужно
it's very important
перелистнуть
for our
страницу
countries to
и
turn the
вернуться к
page, to
сотрудничеству.
go back to
Символично,
cooperation.
что
It is
неподалеку
symbolic
на
that
границе
not far away from
России
here,
и
at
США,
the
как
border
я уже
between
говорил,
Russia and the
проходит
US,
так называемая
there is a
линия
so-called
перемены
international
дат,
date line.
где можно буквально перешагнуть
I
из
think you can
вчера
step
в
over
завтра.
literally from yesterday into tomorrow.
Надеюсь, что у нас так и получится.
And I hope that we'll succeed in that.
в политической сфере.
In
Я
political
хотел бы
sphere.
поблагодарить
I would
господина
like to
Трампа
thank
за
President
совместную
Trump
работу,
for our
за
joint work,
доброжелательный и доверительный
for the
тон бесед.
well-wishing and
Главное, что с
trustworthy
обеих
tone
сторон
of our
был настроен
conversation.
на
It's important
результат.
that both
Мы
sides
видим, что
are
президент США имеет
presented, and we
четкое
see that the
представление о
President of
том,
the U.S.
чего
has a
хочет
very clear
добиться,
idea of
искренне
what he would
заботится о
like to achieve.
процветании своей
He
страны
sincerely
и в то
cares
же
about
время
prosperity of his
проявляет
nation.
понимание наличию в России
Still, he
своих
understands that
национальных интересов.
Russia has its own
Рассчитывает, что
national
сегодняшние
interests. I
договоренности
expect that
станут
today's
опорной
agreements
точкой
will
не
be
только для
the
решения
starting
украинской
point,
проблемы,
not
но
only
и
for the
положит
solution of
начало
the Ukrainian
восстановлению
issue,
деловых,
but also will help
прагматичных
us bring
отношений
back
между
business-like
Россией
and
и США.
pragmatic
Ну и
relations
в
between Russia
завершение
and the U.S.
хотел бы вот что
And in the
добавить.
end, I would like to
Я
add
помню,
one
что
more
в
thing. I'd like to
2022
remind you that
году
in
во время
2022,
последних контактов с
during the
прежней
last
администрацией я
contact
тогда
with the previous
пытался
administration,
убедить
I tried to
своего
convince
прежнего американского
my
коллегу в
previous
том, что
American colleague
не нужно доводить до ситуации
the situation should not be
после наступления, которые могут наступить
brought to the
тяжелые
point
последствия в виде
of no
боевых
return
действий.
when it would come
И
to
прямо сказал
hostilities.
тогда,
And I
что
said
это
it quite
большая
directly back
ошибка.
then that it's a big
И
mistake.
вот сегодня мы слышим, когда президент Трамп
Today,
говорит,
when
что если бы
President
я
Trump
был
saying that
президентом, то войны
if he
бы
was
не
the
было.
president back then, there will be
Я
no
думаю,
war.
что так бы
And I'm
на самом деле
quite sure that it would
случилось.
indeed be
Я
so.
подтверждаю
I
это,
can confirm that.
потому что в целом у
I
нас
think that
с
overall,
президентом Трампом
me and President
наладился
Trump
очень хороший
have built a very
деловой и
good
доверительный
business-like and
контакт.
trustworthy
И
contact.
у меня есть все основания
And I have
полагать, что
every
двигаясь
reason
по
to
этому
believe that
пути, мы
moving
можем
down this path,
дойти и до,
we can
и
come,
чем быстрее, тем лучше,
and the sooner the
до
better,
завершения конфликта
to the
на
end
Украине.
of the conflict
Благодарю
in
вас
Ukraine.
за
Thank you.
внимание.
Thank you.
Well, thank you very much, Mr. President. That was very profound, and I will say that I believe we had a very productive meeting. There were many, many points that we agreed on, most of them, I would say, a couple of big ones that we haven't quite gotten there, but we've made some headway. So there's no deal until there's a deal. I will call up NATO in a little while. I will call up the various people that I think are appropriate, and I'll, of course, call up President Zelensky and tell him about today's meeting. It's ultimately up to them. They're going to have to agree with what Marco and Steve and some of the great people from the Trump administration who've come here, Scott and John Radcliffe, thank you very much. But we have some of our really great leaders. They've been doing a phenomenal job. We also have some tremendous Russian business representatives here, and I think, you know, everybody wants to deal with us. We've become the hottest country anywhere in the world in a very short period of time, and we look forward to that. We look forward to dealing. We're going to try and get this over with. We really made some great progress today. I've always had a fantastic relationship with President Putin, with Vladimir. We had many tough meetings, good meetings. We were interfered with by the Russia hoax. That made it a little bit tougher to deal with, but he understood it. I think he's probably seen things like that during the course of his career. He's seen it all, but we had to put up with the Russia hoax. He knew it was a hoax, and I knew it was a hoax, but what was done was very criminal. But it made it harder for us to deal as a country in terms of the business and all of the things that we'd like to have dealt with. But we'll have a good chance when this is over. So just to put it very quickly, I'm going to start making a few phone calls and tell them what happened. But we had an extremely productive meeting, and many points were agreed to. There are just a very few that are left. Some are not that significant. One is probably the most significant, but we have a very good chance of getting there. We didn't get there, but we have a very good chance of getting there. I would like to thank President Putin and his entire team, whose faces, who I know in many cases, otherwise, other than that, whose faces I get to see all the time in the newspapers. You're almost as famous as the boss, but especially this one right over here. But we had some good meetings over the years, right? Good productive meetings over the years, and we hope to have that in the future. But let's do the most productive one right now. We're going to stop really 5, 6, 7,000, thousands of people a week from being killed, and President Putin wants to see that as much as I do. So, again, Mr. President, I'd like to thank you very much, and we'll speak to you very soon and probably see you again very soon. Thank you very much, Vladimir.
Next time in Moscow.
Oh, that's an interesting one. I don't know. I'll get a little heat on that one, but I could see it possibly happening. Thank you very much, Vladimir.
Thank you.
And thank you all. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Cool. Let's get up there.
Down, please, sir, down, please, thank you.
Okay, you're moving the pool. They're rushing pool out. I'll apologize on the advocates because I can see them all moving.
Down. Down.